What is going on, online fitness coaches? Welcome to another episode of the Change Lives, Make Money Online Trainer podcast. This is the #1 show for online fitness coaches who are trying to grow successful online business. In today's episode, we're talking about the fear of running out of things to say. If you're an online coach and you want to impact the world and you want to change people's lives, it's likely that on some level we might be afraid that we're going to run out of something to say. And so I want to address that in this episode. I want to give you guys the frameworks to always know the right things to say and always have something to deliver of value to your audience. Now, I just want to remind you guys that we're already halfway through the month of June, which is crazy. I can't believe we're already halfway through June. And in the month of June, we're giving away $1,000 cash on the podcast episode. So if you're an online coach and you're listening to this podcast, you want to be entered to win $1,000 cash, all you need to do is screenshot any podcast episode, share it to your Instagram stories, and tag me at BMarkFit. Let me know that you're tuning in. Just by doing that, you're automatically entered to win $1,000 cash. Now, guys, this week on the podcast, last week actually on the podcast, I had like a really busy week. So when I got to Friday, I didn't really know what I was going to talk about. I wasn't really sure. I was kind of like uncertain, and I was like, man, I have no idea what the fuck I'm going to talk about today. And it made me realize that I think a lot of my online trainers struggle with knowing what to say, because I think that a lot of online trainers have a strong desire to produce a lot of content so we can start to attract more clients. But I think that the biggest fear that a lot of online trainers have is that if they say something today, that they're not going to know what they're going to say tomorrow. And the reason we haven't committed to posting 5 times a week is because we don't want to be redundant and we don't want to say the same thing over and over again. And I think a lot of online trainers also have this fear that, their voice won't be heard, or they have this fear that their story isn't good enough or their story isn't impactful enough. And I think another thing a lot of online trainers think when it comes to content is that everything that they want to say has already been said before. So people have already talked about macros and splits and, protein and carbs and fats and all that. And I think that another big fear that a lot of online trainers have is that if they say something that they're going to be criticized. And so they want to stay in their lane and they don't want to say too much because they don't want somebody to criticize them, or they don't want to say the wrong thing, or they don't want to run out of things to say. So I feel like all of these fears are what cause online trainers not to produce content, because on a deep rooted level, they're afraid they're going to run out of things to say, or that it won't be heard, or that their story isn't good enough, all of that. So in today's episode, I want to give you guys the frameworks for always knowing what to say in your content. And I want to give you guys a framework so that you guys can start to write every single post with confidence. I want to give you guys a framework so that you guys can start to create more content that actually attracts clients. And I want to give you guys the blueprint so that you guys can help impact more people's lives and change more people's lives on a daily freaking basis. So let's talk about my podcast. Now, with my podcast, I've been doing it for about 2 years now. We're coming up on 2 years. And if you guys take a look at my last 400 episodes of my content, one thing you'll notice is that I very rarely talk about the same things twice. Very rarely do I repeat the same sort of podcast. No, I actually get this question a lot too. A lot of people ask me, they're like, yo, B Mark, how do you always come up with ideas? How are you always coming up with these content ideas? How do you always go live? How do you always know, how are you always coming up with new content ideas? And the answer for me is extremely simple. And I'm actually going to give it to you guys in this podcast. But before I do, I want to address that, if you're an online trainer that feels like they're going to run out of things to say, or you're an online trainer that maybe feels like you don't have a voice that's good enough for social media, or maybe you feel like you're just not good enough, or that nobody's going to listen to you, the first thing that I really need you guys to understand is that you matter. The first thing I really need you guys to understand is that your voice matters. And the truth is that every single thing that you could say on social media that would help somebody grow in their fitness journey and become better people has already been said before. All of it. Everything you want to say has already been said before. That's how we learn the information ourselves. But the truth is that you matter and your voice matters, because even though everything that's been said before has already been said, it hasn't been said by you. And even though everything that you want to say has already been said before, it hasn't been said by you, and it hasn't been said to your people, to your audience. And so the first key concept to understand is that your voice is 100% unique, because it comes from your own life experience. And even though the concept may have been talked about before, it hasn't been talked about by you. It hasn't been talked about from your perspective. And so I think that a big reason that a lot of us struggle with like feeling like we're going to run out of things to say is that we don't want to say something that's already been said before. But you guys need to understand that everything that you want to say has already been said before, but it hasn't been said by you. And it hasn't been said from your life experience. And your life experience gives you a perception that is completely unique, a fingerprint that can't be duplicated by anybody else because it has your life experience. And so now that we're kind of like over that hurdle and we kind of understand that it's all been said before, but it hasn't been said by you, here are my top 5 tips for you guys that have fears of running out of things to say. All right, so top 5. So number 1, the number 1 tip for you, if you feel like you're always running out of things to say, is you need to invest time and money in yourself. Number 1, straight up, like guys, you need to buy a course. Inside of the 10K Coaching Academy, we have a document literally titled 100 Content Ideas. And in this document, there's literally a list of 100 different post ideas that you could write about, which gives you the creative spark to always know what to say. And the truth is that even for me, you guys, like I'm a content machine. I'm always producing content. There are still times when I'm like, even for me, I run out of things to say. And when I do that, I will pull up my own document that I wrote, and I will reference something on that document to come up with a post idea. You need to invest in yourself, online fitness coaches. Like if you're not investing in yourself, you can't expect other people to invest in you. But it doesn't just stop at money. So if you're if you're an online coach and you're actually in my program, you can't just invest money. You also have to invest time. Time is the other half of the equation. Like if you're not investing in time in your own knowledge and you're not dedicating 30 to 45 minutes a day to learning something new, like acquiring more information, especially if you struggle with content, you should be studying content 30 minutes a day. 30 minutes a day times 5 years will make you like a national expert at something. And so you need to start studying and you need to make it a consistent thing, not when like you do it when you feel like it, but like studying like 1 video a day around content creation. And maybe it's just investing your time and studying the same video over and over and over again until it clicks, until you understand it. But you need to invest your money into a coaching program, and then you need to invest your time into actually learning that program. Then you will always have something to say. So number 1 is investing time and money in yourself. And like, again, if you're in the 10K Coaching Academy and you're listening to this and you're my client, like we put together the blueprint for you. We put it in the website. We've given you 9 post templates that you guys can use and 100 different content ideas. So there is plenty of information, but you need to invest your time into studying the units so that you can get the ROI, and the ROI is clients in your account. All right. So number 1, if you feel like you're running out of things to say, is you need to invest time and money in yourself. Write that down. Number 2, let it be hard and do it anyways. The second concept for you guys, if you feel like you're running out of things to say, is let it hard and do it anyways. How many of you guys have ever felt like you don't want to sit down and write your content because you feel like you don't know what you're going to write about? And so because you feel like you don't know what you're writing about, you never actually sit down to write your content. How many of you guys feel like that? So you guys need to understand that it's going to be hard, especially if you're a newer creator, like if you're a newer online coach, it's going to be challenging to write your content. You're not used to expressing yourself with social media. You're not used to talking about your personal story. You're not used to posting consistently on social media. And so one of the first things you guys need to understand is that it's going to be hard, and you have to be okay with it being hard. Like you have to be okay with knowing that when you sit down, you might have a hard time like getting the words out. And of course, there are different things that you can do to make it easier, like investing in a course and studying the right materials and using post templates. But even with all of those things, it can still be hard. And so you need to understand that like it's going to be hard at first, and that's okay, because being hard is a part of the process. Let it be hard, but commit to getting better. Let yourself have writer's block and let yourself sit there and be like, okay, like I'm feeling writer's block, but I'm going to sit my ass in this chair and I'm going to write a piece of content before I get up. Like you've got to commit to that process, and you have to know that at first it will be challenging and you might not know what to say, and you might sit in that chair for like 20, 30, 40 minutes and not come up with a single word, and that's okay. Just because it's hard doesn't mean you get a pass. Just because it's hard doesn't mean you don't get to do it. In fact, because it's hard, you should be doing it more. You should be practicing more. You should be learning more. It's the things that take us the farthest outside of our comfort zone that are going to be the ones that challenge us to grow. So number 2 is if you feel like you're always running out of things to say or that you have a fear of running out of things to say, you have to understand that content creation will be hard at first and you need to let it be hard and you need to continue to do it anyways. All right, so that's number 2. Are you guys getting value so far? Let's get into number 3. So this one for me is extremely important. I think number 3 is the most important one out of all the concepts I'm going to talk about when it comes to running out of things to say. The third thing that you guys need to know is that you need to get into momentum. You need to get into momentum. Online coach, when you get into momentum, success is easy. Straight up. If you're in my coaching program, if you're in the 10K Academy, how many of you guys are in momentum right now? And because you're in momentum, it feels pretty easy. See, the reason that most people struggle with content creation or sales or growing their business in general is because they'll stop and start. Because they stop and start, like it's going to be hard at first, but once you get over the hard, it actually becomes easy. But most people do just enough work to get over the hard, and then they fall back to their old ways. And then they do just enough work to get over the hard, and then they fall back to their old ways. And they're constantly in this like up and down cycle of growing their business. Guys, get into momentum and stay in momentum. For me, my best creative ideas come when I'm in momentum. Like my best creative ideas come after like weeks of consistent action, and then boom, like the ideas start flowing to me. Like guys, now in my podcast, like my ideas like flow. And of course there are times that I hit creative blocks, but for the most part, like my ideas just flow to me. And when they don't flow to me, I still sit my ass down and I still focus and I still do what needs to get done so that I can come up with some good content ideas so that I can serve my audience. Like let it be hard. And then once you're done that hard, get into momentum and stay there. Like push past the breaking point and then stay in momentum. Every single time my creative juices are tapped, it's because I lose momentum. And so the key to success is to continue momentum, which means morning rituals, staying on track during the weekends, making sure that you're doing everything you can to recharge your batteries in your off time so you're not working 24/7 so you can come back to work feeling amazing. Like if you want to get creative with your ideas and you always want to have something to say, make sure that you're always in momentum. Does this make sense? Number 3 is to get into momentum. Number 4, if you feel like you're always running out of things to say. Number 4 is be inspired, don't copyright. Be inspired, don't copyright. Guys, you guys are going to understand everything that you want to say has already been said by somebody. It's already out there. It's already on the internet. We've talked about macros till the cows come home. Everybody's talked about the training splits. Everybody's talked about glute exercises. Everything has already been done. It's already said. So understand that like, because everything, like pretty much you could come up with a unique, like 100% unique idea, but like we get inspired by other creators. And so it's important to know that like, let's get inspired by other people, not copy them, like be like straight up copyright, but let's read the captions of other creators and be inspired. If you're in the 10K Coaching Academy, we've got 145 coaches that are over $10,000 a month. And so if you want to learn how to be an online coach, all you need to do is read some of the posts that these coaches are making. Read the captions of creators that you're inspired by. If you're inspired by my captions, read my captions and repurpose my stuff. Go ahead. A really great way to never run out of content is to consistently consume content from people that are on the level that you want to get to. And when you consume the content, don't consume it with the intention of copying, consume it with the intention of being inspired. And then use that creative spark to put your own spin on the idea. And so if you're running out of ideas, you guys literally scroll through social media and find creators that you're inspired by and read some of their posts. Take some of the inspiration from their posts and then write that down to come up with ideas for your own content. So number 4 is to be inspired, not to copyright. Number 5 is actually my favorite, one of my favorites too. So if I had to pick 2 favorites, it would be number 3, and number 5. If you feel like you're always running out of things to say, or you're afraid that you're going to run out of things to say, the 5th key concept that I want you to take home today is to speak up with courage, one step at a time. Speak up with courage, one step at a time. You guys, I feel like the reason that online coaches are worried about running out of things to say is because they're thinking 6 steps in advance. Like you guys are thinking way too far down the line. And as a result of thinking way too far down the line, that's where you're getting nervous. Like the reason you're so worried about running out of content is because you're thinking too far into the future. The only thing that you should be focused on, Online Fitness Coach, is your next post. That's it. The only thing you should be focused on is creating your next post. And when you create your next post, the only thing you should be focusing on is making that post as good as it can possibly be. Because if you make your post as good as it can possibly be and you speak up with courage, you can take one more step at a time. You'll never run out of things to say. Because you guys got to remember, everything has already been said before. And so there's no worries about whether or not you're going to say the same thing, because you likely are saying the same thing as somebody else, but it hasn't been said by you. And so I challenge you to speak up with courage. And instead of worrying about running out of things to say indefinitely, just literally focus on creating your next post and making it bomb as hell. That's it. Speak up with courage, one step at a time. Make sense? Okay, online fitness coaches. So this podcast episode is for those online coaches that have a fear of running out of things to say. And so I have 5 things for you guys to do if you have a fear of running out of things to say. And one of these might hit home for you. And if it does, I want you to let me know. Number 1 is to invest time and money in yourself. Guys, purchase a fucking program. And then when you purchase the program, actually study the material. That's like having a fat loss client that comes into your program and they purchase your 12-week program and then they don't actually do it. Like, purchase the program and then follow the program. Number 2 is understanding that if you have a fear of running out of things to say, it's going to be hard to create content at first, but you need to let it be hard and you need to do it anyways, which means having the discipline to literally sit down at your computer until your post is complete. So number 2 is let it be hard and do it anyways. Number 3, the third thing that you guys need to do is if you're feeling like you're running out of things to say, is to get into momentum and stay there. Like, I feel like the reason that a lot of online coaches struggle is because they're stopping and starting. So just like once you're in momentum and once you push past the hard, all you need to do is stay there. Number 4 is to be inspired, not to copyright. Guys, everything that you want to do has already been done. So like, go on the internet, browse TikToks for some ideas, browse Instagram for some ideas. If you're in the 10K Academy, take inspiration from those trainers that are crushing it and be inspired by them. Don't copy them. And number 5 is to speak up with courage, one step at a time. Again, a big reason that the fear comes in is because we're thinking too far into the future. Like, I'm going to run out of things to say, but the only thing that you should be focusing on is your next post. And if you've invested in a course and you're studying the material, you'll always have the information for your next post. And if you just keep recycling that, then you'll never run out of things to say. All right? Guys, that's it. That's all. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Change Lives, Make Money Online Training Podcast, the #1 show for online fitness coaches who are trying to grow a successful online business. If you got value from today's episode, guys, I would absolutely love if you could screenshot any podcast episode, share it to your Instagram stories, tag me at BMarkFit. Let me know that you're tuning in. I'm giving away $1,000 cash in the month of June. So all you need to do, screenshot, share, tag me at BMarkFit. That's it. That's all. Hope you guys have the best day of your entire life, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Let's go.